Hey there, so today we have another review. This is a beer from Brooklyn Brewery. This is Brooklyn Pilsner. So if you want to skip ahead to the review, please do. We're going to do a preface about this beer in a little bit and about Brooklyn Brewery for a little bit. So first off, uh, this is like a revamp. The beer Brooklyn Pilsner, if you guys are familiar with it, like orange. It had the logo, but it was orange in the bottle. I think it was orange. The classic kind of like Brooklyn Brewery kind of um, label. That beer used to be 4.6, and this is now 5%. So they've like done the whole rebrand thing. Definitely a lot more hip and fun, less retro. But like I thought the retro thing really did work for Brooklyn Brewery for quite a while. But now I guess it's like, I mean, hell, the brewery literally started probably like I'm dating myself 40 years ago. 40 years ago. That's crazy. 40 years ago. Yeah. Jesus Christ. I think the brewery opened in 1984. Now we're in 2022. That's absolutely insane. So, rebrand and all that cool stuff is definitely somewhat called for, but they kept obviously most of that. And they got the music thing. I think that's a Basquiat thing. You guys tell me if that crown is specifically for Basquiat. And then, cool thing to talk about the logo is actually Milton Glasser, who's actually a very famous graphic design um, like icon. He actually designed their logo, even though they couldn't even afford him. Like they were a nobody brewery, but somehow like they pitched it real well. He agreed. Now he gets like free beer for the rest of his life. Blah blah. Yeah, so cool. Anyway, so this is Crisp Pilsner. Try to find more information about this beer, but it is honestly hilariously bad on the website. They call this beer crisp, fresh, and fun. They say bright golden, strikingly refreshing. That is all the information they give. They don't give you hops. They don't give tasting notes. They don't give malt. They don't nothing. Actually, one cool thing guess they do is they give you like 5 or 6 kind of beer and food pairings because literally Garrett Oliver wrote the book on food and beer pairing. So I guess you sort of have to include that. But when you're like I think 25% of this company is bought out by, uh, correct me if I'm wrong, Kirin or Sapporo. All right, well, anyway, bought out. You think like when large, this brewery's huge enough, but also when like partially when you're able to get buyouts is that like you're able to afford like people that are educated to update like critical information about your beer on your website for dumb people like me that want to look it up. Or not even dumb people like me. Like some people are probably curious. Like, it's like, how do I find more information about this pilsner I'm about to buy off the shelf? And the website's a great place for that. And literally, there's no information about it. So I assume new recipe, 5% revamp, blah blah. Let's see how this guy turns out. Freshness on this guy. What the hell, man? That canning is so bad. Oh, I know. I knew I read it pretty well when I went to total. So the Best Buy is about 4 months away. 4 months away on Best Buy. Oh, geez, it's so hard to read. I can't read the rest of that. So 4 months away. Let's assume this is 2 months fresh, 6 month, 6 month. You think they're putting a year on the Pilsner? I don't know. This could be really old or it could be pretty fresh. I don't know. Then again, I don't think I've seen this. I don't think I've seen this can like the bright yellow. Like I would have picked it out. So this has to be like I want to guess 6 month Best Buy. So 2 month fresh. Fingers crossed. Beer's very nice looking, light gold color, crystal clarity, as they call it again. Bright golden, strikingly refreshing. Looks like a Pilsner, right? Wonderful white head. Looks good. What the hell is that? What is that? Huh. So I definitely get like some. Like, is it too cold? Well, I mean, I have it chilled, but pretty cool for a pilsner. But I get like like grainy flavor. It I'm also like coming off of a cold, so there's a little bit of that. But like my first impression was like almost like a hit of like pastel line. Yeah, yeah. Not very expressive nose, but maybe I'm crazy. Huh. I check on the palate. Okay, yeah, that's pretty good. And honestly, um, having had like this is not a beer that even like being from New York, it's not a beer that like was just around that much. Like I'm trying to think of beers that like um that were like for sure 6 point. 6 point was around. Like 6 point pills was around everywhere. What are pilsners? There's got to be some others. Smutty nose pilsner. Jeez, huh? I'm trying to think like East Coast, sort of like New York vibes, circa 2010 and on, right? Like what were we having? I mean, this was certainly around. Talk about the flavor of this beer. So Um, the flavor, first off, doesn't have like a sweet grainy flavor that I'm generally familiar with. Like it doesn't. Well, it has some of that, but it doesn't like pronounce like it certainly doesn't taste German, right? This is some kind of like spin on like Brooklyn's take on Pilsner, which is quite nice. Not all Pilsners have to necessarily taste like they're from Germany, right? But just doesn't have that bold, characterful kind of Bohemian Pilsner flavor, even though it's very possible they're using it. I just don't get that flavor out of it. Sorry. Yeah. What I noticed is that the bitterness comes in on like a third to a fourth of the palate in. It just hits, and the bitterness is noticeable. It's honestly almost like I'd argue a little too bitter for some people. I think that's something like beer shot lager houses, Stone Pills tend to do. It's just an amped up bitterness that like this is definitely for the hopheads, right? This is not for more traditional pilsner drinkers. Like it noticeably just seems to have more saturated kind of like IBU and round lingering hop flavor. Um, Sort of like last, I mean, one of the last hoppy pills that sort of reminds me of like this kind of like intensity of hops and sort of like amplified bitterness would be the Morning Table Pilsner, right? Yeah, Morning Table. Um, I want to say this hoppiness is a little bit more jagged. It seems to like stick on the palate a little bit, and it's almost as if like I can't call if it's the bitterness or what I smelled, but it almost seems like there's an acetaldehyde kind of thing going on. Oxidation, acetaldehyde, very possible, right? Yeah, because like so what I'm perceiving as bitterness could very likely just be that aroma that I was getting, that kind of like paint kind of thing. It sort of sits on the palate and it sort of trick you as if it is bitterness, but it really is acetaldehyde. And it comes off like as I drink it more, it's like more and more kind of like bitter, raw pumpkin flesh kind of thing. I don't know. I don't know. I could be wrong. It could just be really like amplified racing bitterness, but I'm like slightly suspect of so that it could be that. But the big thing for me, it just lacks malt complexity. Like to even have, let's say best case scenario, that's just how bitter the beer is. I'm being tricked by like getting acetaldehyde on the aroma of the palate. The sweet grainy flavors that you really want to sort of balance out that bitterness or make this beer like quote unquote balanced is lacking. Like it's a little hollow. It's almost like somebody trying to make like sort of got like a pilsner and like a cold IPA and mixed them together or something, right? Like something where it's like sort of out of balance, where the bitterness is jumping out too forward. Again, this is the best case scenario. Bitterness is jumping out too forward, lingering a little too long, and there's not enough malt and not enough sweetness to sort of like complement that, right? Either way, like best case scenario is still pretty crushable, right? I'm drinking through it. Um, what I perceive as an all flavor is not. If it is that, it's not dominant enough for a 99% of drinkers. I'm trying to be sensitive to it, doing that advanced sort of thing. Um, but yeah, interesting. Cool. Let's go with the rating. Best case scenario, this beer gets a okay. Um, 84. Brooklyn Pilsner. Yeah, 84. That's a good rating, right? A little high though, you think? 83. 83. Fine. 80, 84. Best case scenario, this gets an 84. Uh, crushable for sure if you're trying not to think too much about it, but really, again, for me, lacks complexity, lacks balance.